Hello, everyone, and welcome to this edition of See Yourself Grow with Tina. I am Tina Kalura, and for those of you who don't know me, I am a wife, I am a mom, and I try to be a boss at everything that I do. I am the founder and CEO of the See Yourself and Your Business Grow coaching and consulting firm, and I help business owners get out of their own way and into results in less than 90 days. So today I'm talking to you about how non US entrepreneurs can actually expand their business with an E1 or an E2 visa. Now, did you know that I think it was as of December 2022, there were 1.22 million employer businesses in Canada. Of these, 1.19 million, so that's about 97%, were actually small businesses. And 23,000 of those were medium sized businesses, and 3,000 of those were large businesses. Now, Canadian citizens can launch businesses in the US. And if you are already registered here as a business owner in Canada, you can also register to do business in at least 50 states. Now, you can probably form a limited liability company, so that's an LLC, to gain liability protection, a corporation, launch a solopreneurship and or a partnership. And if you are a professional speaker who is looking to work and or speak in the US, you're going to want to listen to this live because it's going to actually lead you to something very important. Now, there are 7 key steps to starting a business in the US. And if you're interested in knowing what those 7 steps are, I want you to type me in the comments, either on Facebook or LinkedIn, and I will send you those 7 steps. Now, I'm going to bring on a very important guest that I met almost a year ago, actually. So, Steve and I met at an event where I was speaking. And after I spoke, Steve came up and introduced himself. And I immediately said to myself, I need to talk to that guy. Because at the time, I was working with a PR agent who was working on getting me hired to do speaking engagements in the US. And one of the things that she mentioned to me is that I need a visa. Didn't think of that, but once I heard Steve introduce himself, I'm like, I need to talk to him. And there are 2 things that I want to highlight here that my clients always hear me say. If you are not visible, you are invisible. So, had I not made the choice to speak at that event, and had Steve not made the choice to actually introduce himself, we would have never have met. We would have never been able to become a partnership. The second point I want to make is that it is so important to communicate clearly regarding the problem that you solve, the people that you're looking to work with, and how important it is to be consistent in your messaging and in your interactions. Always show up because you just never know what's going to happen in that event or in that moment. You never know who you're going to meet. So, this is so important also because you're not going to close a deal in one interaction. If you do, congratulations, but not likely. It could take 3 times, it could take up to 5, it could take up to 10 interactions before you actually close a deal. So continue to always show up and be present and be authentic. I think that is a huge contributor to my success. What you see is what you get. So now I'm going to introduce you guys to a good friend of mine. So Steve Lawson is the founder and CEO of the Lawsorio Consulting Inc. It's a boutique consulting firm that specializes in helping Canadian and other non-U.S. citizens operate business and conduct trade with the U.S. His area of specialization is in the E1 and E2 non-immigration visas, which are treaty-based U.S. Business visas. So Mr. Lawson actually lives in Toronto with his wife and dog Allegra. He has worked for the U.S. consulate in Toronto as a U.S. business visa analyst. He began working for the U.S. consulate in June of 2015, and his primary role was to elevate applications for treaty investors and trade visas. So he specializes in this. And he was helping determine whether or not they satisfied the requirements for U.S. immigration law. Now, Steve possesses very sharp analytical skills, and his work facilitates billions of dollars of investments into the US economy each year. His excellent research and legal skills allows him to develop a reference document that provided a clear understanding of the discrepancies between various US states and federal laws. He has a genuine talent for identifying anomalies or missing documents in submissions. There were several the cases where he caught things an adjudicator likely would have missed that played a critical role in the visa adjudication process. Mr. Lawson's education, training, and experience make him a leading expert on treaty, investor, and trade visa, and it allows him to know everything that you need to know about the E1 or E2 process, visa process. So without further ado, please join me in welcoming Stephen. Hi, Stephen.
Hi, Tina. It's always a pleasure to meet with you, and thank you so much for the kind words and the fantastic introduction.
Absolutely. So I meant every word. I think what you do is amazing, and I think there are so many people out there that have no clue about this whole process. Had I not met you, I would have never known. So all the more reason I want to have you on today because I think it's important to share you and what it is that you do with the world. So tell me, what made you interested in business immigration?
Well, that's a great question. Like most people, I didn't know anything about immigration. I'm from the U.S. originally. I was born in Spain, actually. My father was in the U.S. military. So I had a special type of birth certificate called a CRIBA, a consular report of birth abroad. But I didn't realize how important that was until later on in life. But it wasn't until my wife and I immigrated to Canada in 2014 for her job that I first had my encounter with the immigration process. We immigrated here to Canada, got work permits, and eventually became permanent residents and then citizens. And then, I was in a new city, new country, looking for something to do for work. Didn't know anybody, didn't have any connections, and I got a part-time job pretty quick teaching, and then eventually I started coming across positions at the U.S. consulate here in Toronto, and I thought it'd be an amazing opportunity to work in a foreign country for the U.S. government. So I applied, got turned down, applied again, got turned down, third time's a charm, and they hired me. I started working with non-immigrant visas and was very quickly identified as somebody who would work very well with the E1 and E2 class of visas. There's a special unit at the U.S. consulate that deals specifically with those. They're very technical, lots of rules and regulations, and applicants send in applications, sometimes over 100 pages, where we have to go through and analyze them to make sure they fit into the law. So I quickly realized that I was really good at it. I really enjoyed it. I was able to use my analytical skills, my legal background, and I started, getting a lot of attention, winning awards, and getting praise for my analysis and my research. And eventually I started training some of the employees there, especially during COVID, when we needed to find different ways to get more of the staff involved in different types of visa classes. So it was very exciting. It was very interesting, and I really enjoyed it.
Nice, excellent. So, Stephen, I just want to explain, if you don't mind, explain what an E1 or an E2 visa is and why people like myself, who's a public speaker, would need that in order to work in the US.
Yeah, absolutely, Tina. It'd be my pleasure. I'll start with the E1 visa. The E1 visa is referred to as a treaty trader visa. And there are several requirements that you have to meet in order to qualify for issuance of an E1 visa. The first is you have to be a citizen of a country that has a trade treaty with the United States. There's several of them, but not all. And actually, I'm working on doing a article right now where I'm talking about how of the next 10 biggest economies after the United States, only 6 of them actually qualify. Some of the biggest economies in the world don't actually have treaties with the United States to qualify for this. So Canada definitely is. The USMCA, and before that NAFTA, qualifies Canadian citizens. And our clients that we've helped get E1 visas are very much like, just like you said, Tina, very much like you, public speakers, people that are getting opportunities to travel to the United States, physically go to the United States, and being paid for their services in the United States. And if that's going to happen, then you need to have a visa. If you're doing it remotely, if you're doing it here while you're sitting here in Canada, consulting with people in the U.S., you don't need a visa because you're not, yes, that's not considered part of this. It's considered passive investment. So the trade treaty says that you at least 50% of your international trade must be with the United States. So as a Canadian, right, that would obviously not include Canada, that's domestic. So, you need to look at how much trade you do with the United States versus other countries. At least 50% of that has to be with the United States. It has to be ongoing trade. And that's where things get confusing, because sometimes people say, well, how am I supposed to have ongoing trade if I'm not allowed to go there without getting a visa first? Well, that could be in the form of contracts. Somebody says, we'd like to have you come in June into, I don't know, Seattle, and talk to the Microsoft staff about, business or something like that. It could be in the form of letters of intent, or in some cases, people don't realize what an E1 visa is, and they actually, go to the United States, and then when they're at the airport, someone tells them, hey, you need a visa for this. We'll let you go through this time, but next time you better go get an E1 visa. So, and then there's a few other things. You got to show your qualifications for what you're doing. Obviously, that's basically done with your resume. If you're social media presence now is something that is looked at very closely. So, those are the basic requirements for an E1 visa. It doesn't require investment, but it does require that you have an ongoing trade situation with the United States.
Very cool. Okay, excellent. So tell us a little bit more about your ideal client. Who are the people who, we talked a little bit about, who would benefit from an E1 visa, like speakers, but who else? What other type of clients?
Well, I've seen, especially working at the U.S. consulate. When I was there, I worked on thousands of applications, and E1s could be anything from somebody, an engineer who's a consultant. IT consultants are big with this. Like I said, public speakers, social media influencers. You can also have companies, companies like some of the very large automobile manufacturing companies. Some of them have employees in the United States on E1 and E2 visas and other types of visas. So it really depends on what it is that you're doing. I remember working with some retail companies here in Canada that wanted to expand into the US. So they opened up a location in the US, and they would send their products to the US and sell them there. And that qualifies as an E1 visa. It would also qualify as an E2 visa as well. So it could be anybody, but I would say mostly it's individuals who have experience. Some of them are very high profile, people you've seen on television, and are going to the United States to perform some sort of a service.
Okay. So, in your opinion, like based on your experience and what you've seen, are there certain types of businesses that qualify easily versus others?
I would say that's a really good question. I mean, going back and looking at it, I would say most people that apply for these e-visas, whether it's E1 or E2, are either individual owners or maybe there's two partners. So it's typically small businesses. The typical case is somebody who has a successful business here in Canada, and they've hit like a revenue plateau. They can't. They're trying to find ways to expand their business, increase their revenue flow, and they have people in the United States that are interested in either their services or their products, and so they're starting to see more and more interest in the United States. But it's difficult. Sometimes people in the U.S. don't want to, buy something from a Canadian company because of the cross-border shipping and all that kind of stuff. So they realize very quickly that it's a lot easier to have an actual presence in the U.S. So that's a typical one. People sell their houses sometimes and say, you know what, I'm going to take this money and invest it in a business. I've always wanted to live in Florida. They go down there. Maybe their family has a house down there. Got quite a few clients in that scenario. But yeah, most are small to medium sized businesses with less than five investors or employees.
Okay, pretty cool. Okay.
Yeah.
So, another question for you. If you could drum up one of your most like impactful or a story that, you helped a client out, which one sticks out for you? Is there one that you're most proud of, if you had to
Yeah,
pick
there
one?
is. Yes, exactly. There is. There's actually. Um, I had so when COVID started, when COVID was coming to an end. I'm sorry. I was still working at the consulate. I was working remotely, and my wife and I had purchased a house outside the GTA. We didn't expect to have to go back, and the consulate told me that I had to come back, and I told them, I'm not going to come back. I'm going to resign. So I eventually resigned, and I felt like I needed to change. It was COVID, so I was looking for other things to do. I was living outside of Toronto, and I got into photography. I'd always had a passion for photography, and got a drone license. And I started working, getting jobs for aerial photography for various types of businesses and chambers of commerce and like tourist organizations and stuff. And one of my jobs I was working on, I was hired by a gentleman who did roof. He did some work with roof enveloping, commercial roof enveloping. So he had got hired to do a job for a big, huge facility in Bowmanville. He hired me to do before and after pictures. So I went out there, and he met me out there, and we started talking, and we got along. We got along really well. And he was talking about his business, and I was talking about my business. Did the before pictures. He called me back to do the after pictures. We met up out there, and we started talking. And this was right about the time I was starting my Lawsorio consulting.
Okay.
And we were talking, and he was saying, "Yeah, I'm getting back into the roofing business." He had sold a business a few years ago, had a non-compete clause that was expiring, and I said, "Oh, you know what? I'm starting a consulting business too." So I told him about mine, and he said, "Oh, I need to talk to you because I've met with other people, and they've told me that I can't go to the United States with this business that I have." And I said, "Really? Not true. You can definitely go to the United States with this business." It was just him. It was just him and some equipment. It was a very low amount of money for investment. And so, I met with him and his wife, and, they wound up hiring me. They were one of my first clients. And they told me, "Wow, Steve, I can't believe, that I met you because, I was told by several people that I can't do this. And here you are. Are you sure you can?" I'm like, "Yes, yes, yes." So they finally got issued last in June, actually, a couple months ago. They're down in Florida right now. And they were so happy and so excited that they're like, "I cannot believe that we actually did this. We were told by people that were experts in the field that I could never do this. And here I am." So that makes me feel really good. When I'm able to help somebody navigate a process that seems, impossible. There are barriers, and I'm told I can't do it, and it's never gonna work. And then they come to me, and I help them get through that process. And now I'm starting to get more and more people like that are just, very small businesses. And these other places, they're like, "No, if you don't have $500,000 and 20 employees, we don't want anything to do with you. You're never going to get your visa." So it makes me feel good. It makes me feel good. And that right there is the one that'll probably be with me the rest of my career.
That's amazing. And you know what? Like you said, it's making an impact. It's turning things around for someone that was told that they couldn't do something, and then you were able to make that happen, right?
Yeah.
So congratulations on that. And I'm sure it's happened many times since then. So if you had to share maybe three things or three tips for people out there who are thinking about working in the US or thinking about investing, what would those three things be?
Okay. So three things I would say: develop a plan. Okay. Come up with an idea. Think of something that you want to do.
Okay.
Don't go out there and just buy some business that's for sale that you have no interest in working with. Try to use your experiences in life. The second thing I would say: pick a location. Once you pick a location, things become much easier. When people come to me and say, I don't know what I want to do and I don't know where I want to go, I'm like, well, you need to talk to Tina is what you need to do. She can help you figure that stuff out, right? She helped me. She can help you. And the third thing I would say is before you get started, before you start buying things and setting up businesses and transferring money, talk to somebody that knows how the process works. Because if you don't do it correctly, you're going to get yourself in a situation where you're just not going to be able to get a visa. I recently got hired by somebody who had gone through somebody else, and there was some issues with the way that their business investment was set up, and they wound up getting denied somewhere. I'm helping them reapply and trying to fix what was wrong. So, it's always important to talk to somebody before you get things started and start investing.
Yeah, so that's it. Talk to Steve. So
Talk
before
to me. Yeah,
you talk
exactly.
to Steve, yeah. I was just gonna say, like, honestly, in hearing, your story, Steve, and understanding more about, the people that you're helping and the different scenarios, it's fascinating. Because again, there's so many people out there who've been told that they can't do this, but then you wind up finding a solution for them, and I think it's amazing. So congratulations on all your success, since you've launched the business. I think it's amazing. The possibilities are amazing. So Steve, how can people get in touch with you? What would be the best way for people to learn more about you and your business?
Yeah, the best way would be to you can contact me via email at info@Lawsorio Consulting, LAWSORIO Consulting.com. You can also call me. I have a lot of people that like to talk, speak on the phone or text at 416-319-2133. You can always go to my website. I have my website here on the screen, www.lawsorioconsulting.com. Lots of information about me, my background. There's ways you can schedule meetings with me, get in touch with me, and yeah, those are the best ways.
Excellent. And do you have anything special coming up, that you want to share with anyone listening?
Yeah, we've thanks to the amazing help with and guidance from you, Tina. I'm starting to become noticed. Like you said earlier, I love that line. If you're not visible, you're invisible. Well, you've helped me go from being invisible to visible. So we're starting to get more and more clients reaching out to us from outside of the GTA. I'm here in the GTA. We've had several people contact us from Vancouver lately. So we've made the decision to plan a trip at the end of November, the last week of November, to go out there, meet with some of these clients. I'm in the process of connecting with some people on the social media platforms. I'm going to start advertising for that. For anybody that wants to meet me, ask me anything, right? We can meet at a coffee shop or whatever is the hotel we'll be staying at, someplace. That'll be the end of November, the very last week.
That's so exciting. I'm excited for you, and again for all the possibilities, and for getting noticed and for getting referrals, Steve. So it's truly amazing, and remarkable how far you've come. So congratulations.
Well,
Um,
thank you, Tina.
Yeah. So we're going to be putting all of Steve's contact information in the comments, both on Facebook and LinkedIn, and I'll share it on YouTube as well. So if you didn't catch all of his contact information, just look down in the comments for it. I want to thank you again, Steve, for sharing all this information, your experience, and your time. I greatly appreciate you, and all that you're doing. So keep it up.
Well, thank you very much.
Excellent. Okay, so I'm just going to wrap things up. So, Steve, feel free to hang out backstage, or if you have to go, I totally understand. But again, thank you for being here.
Okay, thank you.
All right, excellent. So there you have it, Steve Lawsorio, Lawson, who is the founder of the Lawsorio Consulting Company. So he is doing amazing things for a lot of wonderful people who want to start businesses and or work in the US. So please reach out to him if you have any questions, or if you have a burning desire to be one of those folks. For me, I am actually launching another See Your Leads Grow Masterclass, which is going to be happening on Thursday, October the 3rd. I'll be sharing that link in all the comments as well, or you can actually go to my cover page on Facebook to get the registration link. So if you're someone who wants to, learn more about the 6 top marketing strategies that is going to keep your lead funnel full, you're going to want to join this masterclass. It's going to be 45 minutes, and I'm going to pull back the curtains on what I do, how I do it, and I'll be sharing so many amazing stories with you as well on how I have successfully grown my business. So thank you for listening. And until next time, I look forward to seeing you and your business grow. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.